and welcome back to my channel. I am finally doing my manga in review for all the manga that I read in 2024. 2024 was an excellent reading year for me for manga because I read 133 volumes, and if you compare that to the previous year where I only read 21 or the previous year where I only read 82, so the year before that, it's a significant increase. And then I have to say it's really due to the fact that I really made a considerable effort to read manga in 2024. Basically, I had the idea that I was just going to read manga during my lunch break every single day at work, and that just really helped, because the thing with like manga is that it's so much faster to read that you get a greater sense of self-satisfaction when you get through like 60 pages and maybe 40 minutes of reading time during lunch, because I'll eat for 20 minutes and then I'll go and sit in a corner and read for 40 minutes. And that just the sense of self-satisfaction because of the progress you're making compared to reading a novel where you might only get like 8 or 10 pages depending on how dense the work you're reading is. It just makes it really easy to just plow through these. So oftentimes I would read like half of a volume during lunch, and then I'd be so enchanted by what I was reading that I either would finish what I was reading at home once I went home, or I would definitely make an effort to pick the books up again during the weekend. So yeah, I have to really credit a really great reading year to reading these during lunch. And so yeah, 133 volumes in 1 year. For me, that's really absolutely fantastic considering everything I do, compared to people who only read manga, who can read like 1,000 manga in a year. Obviously the numbers aren't gonna match, but for me, I'm super excited. So let me go through what I read in 2024, and I'm going to present these to you in the order of which I read them. So I started off the year, and I think it wasn't until February that I started reading manga, but I started off reading the entirety of Captain Tsubasa from volume 1 to volume 37. This is the most famous soccer manga that ever exists. And I am a soccer manga diehard fan, but I always kind of kept this one. I grew up on the anime, but I always sort of kept this one as just like a treat as I went through all the other sort of manga. Now I actually have to find another soccer manga that I want to read. Right now I'm kind of like going through them and seeing what's available. But yeah, so I finally read the very infamous, very famous Captain Tsubasa, and that was quite the ride. Then I read volumes 12 through 14, what were the latest volumes of極主夫道at the time, in 2024, so whatever came out in 2024. So this is a series I'm really good about, that I like keep track of. I buy them as they come out, and then I read them pretty much right away.極主夫道is The Way the Househusband, which is about a former Yakuza who is now just like a stay-at-home husband basically, and it's just like full of gags and like silly puns, and it's just really a simple good time. Then I read the Poseidon arc, volumes 8 through 10 of this edition of Saint Seiya. Saint Seiya is a quite old series. Let me look at the data. I wrote down all the years. So this is from 1986, and it's a series I finished in 1990. So mid 80s. Or late 80s is late 80s. So Saint Seiya is also an anime that I grew up on, and it's something that I was really in love as a kid, but I just have no idea how it finishes. I have no idea how it progresses past the first arc, which I believe is the Artemis arc. So I read the Poseidon arc, which is, kind of simple, continues with the really clichéness of the series, but like as cliche as it is, somehow the story keeps pulling me back in, which is annoying because it is super cliche, but I really enjoy the art. It's peak, late 80s art, and I'm really excited to continue with this series and finally finish it. I think I have 5 more volumes to read. Then I read volumes 19 to 23 of Ranma 1/2. This is a very beloved 90s manga. And also a manga that I grew up watching the anime but never read the manga, and I always wanted to. And this is a manga that for me, I feel isn't the best manga in terms of like binging. It's not a manga that I want to binge because it's very like episodic. It has like little mini like 1 volume arcs or 2 volume arcs. And for that, that creates a good pausing point for me to be able to just kind of stay in the world. But because it does follow a lot of the same gags, basically it's just a story about young boy named Ranma and his father, who were training martial arts in China, and they fell in this mystical pool, which basically changes your physique whenever you go under hot water or cold water. So his hot water state is himself, and the cold water state is he turns into a girl, his father turns into a panda. But basically they come to Japan, and he has a fiance named Akane, and then it's just all of the shenanigans that result with all the love triangles and love circles and love pentagons and etc etc. It's like, it's a joy, it's a classic manga to read. And so I love to just read like a few volumes every once in a while, just to get like a nice comfortable nostalgic feel from it, and then like know that I have some left to like go back in later again and like continue that enjoyment over a longer span. So volumes 19 through 23 of Ranma and a Half. And after that, I decided, let's go big. 2024 was the death of Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball. So I decided this was the moment to read it. I mean, that's not why I read it. I'm not, it's not because the man dies I'm going to read their work. But it's, it's a classic, another anime I grew up on. Everyone knows Dragon Ball. I loved this series growing up. Like the French Dragon Ball Z theme song, I love to torture my Japanese friends with that song because they're like, no, it's wrong, it's wrong. I'm like, no, it's so good, it's so good. So I read volumes 1 through 42. I read the entire series of Dragon Ball, and I was absolutely hooked. I went through this in like a month and a half. I could not stop reading this. I would read like 1 to 2 volumes per day. I was just so in love. Seeing the progression of the art, the progression of the story, the fact that like, what I love is that he's so good about introducing characters and then not forgetting them. Like, they always come back, they always circulate back, they always have a role. They all have their own level of importance dependent on their abilities, and it's just really very fantastic and very just good feeling, nostalgic. It's funny. And I'm just so happy that I finally got to read this huge classic, because Dragon Ball is just, it's just like good fun. It's like seriously good fun. After I did that, volume 5, the final volume of Kujima Utae ba Ie Hororo came out. This ended this tiny little 5-book series. This is a super quaint series about this young boy who runs into this weird, strange, exotic bird. He brings them into his home. It's all about the shenanigans they go through while the bird decides to spend his the hibernation years in Japan before he goes back to his home country, Russia. It's quaint, it's cute, the art is absolutely adorable. It's just like one of those super feel-good series. It's not deep. It could have actually gone deep. There were moments where I thought, like, if this became a long series, it actually could have gone quite deep if they went in the direction I kind of wanted them to go to. But it's actually, so it ends up not going in that direction, so it's actually super lighthearted. It's like a good feeling, like Yotsubato kind of series. And so this ended after 5 volumes, so super cute. It's becoming an anime, or it has become an anime. I'm not sure on the progress of that, but it did get signed up to become an anime. Then I read the entirety of the manga Kiseiju, so I read volumes 1 through 8 in this edition of Kiseiju, which is Parasyte. It is also a manga from the early 90s, from 1990 to 1995. This was fantastic. This was really, really absolutely such a good story. Such a good concept. Basically what happens is that these creatures fall one night from the sky. They break out of their little like seed pod, and then basically they infiltrate humans by like entering either through the nose, the mouth, or the nose. But our main character Shinichi, at the time that the little creature slid out of the seed pod, was wearing headphones, and so the creature was struggling, and basically he had to like infiltrate a human right away or it would die. So it decided to like dig into his skin and of his right arm, and basically Shinichi, our main character, uses his headphones, wraps it around his arm as a tourniquet, And because of that, the creature was only able to take over his right arm instead of being able to take over his brain. So it creates this symbiotic relationship. And basically the plot of the Parasyte is basically that it's questioning the hypocrisy of humanity, and especially in terms of nature, like humans being the top of the pyramid chain, not the pyramid chain. Food chain. I mixed up the food pyramid and the other thing I just said. Yeah, it's just really examining those questions. So it gets quite philosophical at times, which makes it really interesting. The art's kind of strange. I do think it works for this series, but for me personally, I'm not sure if it would work on his newest, I think it's like kind of fantasy based series, but it works really well for this because it really, the art really helps portray the sort of blank slate that is these parasite infested humans, and then like their lack of ability of understanding human emotions and how to control human emotions, and like the purpose of human emotion, etc. So this was a fantastic series. I really enjoyed that one. After I finished that, I caught up on Detective Conan. I read volumes 102 and 103 of Detective Conan in the French edition. Detective Conan is a very popular detective mystery series. It started in 1994. It's still ongoing. I wish it would end because it's been 105 volumes. It's been a long time coming. The author Aoyama Gosho has said he does know who the final boss is, and so there is an ending in sight. Basically, he says that there is an ending in sight. I know it's going to happen, so I'm very much looking forward to it. Yeah, so I just caught up with this. This is the only manga that I still read in French because I started reading the series before I could understand Japanese, and I didn't want to make the switch in the middle. Although it would have been really fun to read in Japanese. Like every once in a while in the bookstore, I pick up the Japanese version and kind of skim through it. And sometimes it feels like I'm reading a series, like even if I like just look at the Japanese based off of a manga volume that I just read, I'm like, it just feels so foreign, so alien, as if I hadn't actually read it. So, but it is what it is. The French edition is really good. So, okay. So then I decided after that I was going to read more soccer manga. Usually I only read one soccer manga series per year, but this time I decided to read the sequel to the soccer manga Shoot. And it's probably why I decided to read it, because it is a sequel. Like it felt like I was continuing something that I already kind of started. Because basically, like, Shoot is a soccer manga that the original series ends on a cliffhanger. It doesn't actually end. So it has multiple sequels. Now, the sequel that was published immediately after the original series, I decided to skip, because that one just goes back into the main characters when they were in middle school, and that didn't interest me. And I skipped to this series, which is Shuto Atsuki Chosen. So like a heated challenge, a heated fight. I decided to go with this one because this is an actual continuation of the original story, although it doesn't go too far, but it does have our main character going abroad for the first time and sort of getting him help, and sort of he had kind of reached a little bit of a plateau, and now he has this new technique that he developed that really helps him get through this sort of like wall that he kept butting against. So this was really great. Although the series still did not end with this, and now I have to buy yet another sequel, and I think the next sequel is about 16 volumes long. I just want to know what happens. Just tell me what happens. Who ends up with who? So still fun, still good, but still not done with the series. But another manga, volumes 1 through 12, that I finish this in 2024. Then I decided to finish the year with a series that my friend had recommended to me. I visit him in his hometown every summer, and we just like hang out at the beach all the time, and then we go to book off at night because there's nothing else to do because it's in the middle of nowhere, Japan. And there was, I think it was 2 years ago or maybe 3 years ago, that we Every time I go there is during the Obon season, which is the big season where everyone goes back home to their hometowns. So Book Off was having their 20% off sale, and that was on top of the mangas that's already been at 50%. So it's like 70% off, which means you just have to buy. Like, it'd be stupid not to buy the manga at that price. So I did buy everything I wanted to buy, and then I told him, you know what? Just recommend a random series. Recommend me your favorite series. I'll buy it. If I don't like it, I can just sell it back, but I'll buy it, and then we'll see if I read it. And I finally did, and that is the series Black Cat. So I read volumes 1 through 20 of Black Cat, which is basically just a series about a former assassin who has decided that he's turning a new leaf. He's leaving the assassination world behind to become a bounty hunter that doesn't kill his prey. Basically, he decides to become non-violent, non-lethal. The only problem is that he is a very still well-desired assassin, and his former colleague, who is also kind of a rival, kind of like, you know, I wanted to be as strong as you, so I became stronger than you, etc. Basically, his former rival branched off from their original, the assassins, that like sort of soshiki, that society, that league, whatever you want to call, like those that dark league in the background, branched off, tries to form his other league to like take over the world himself, and he's trying to recruit our main character, and it's just like those kind of shenanigans. I have to say, this one, cute, fun, not my favorite. It did surprise me in certain ways, but in any case, this is what I finished the year with. So volumes 1 through 20 of Black Cat. So to say again that I read 133 volumes this year, and it's just like, who am I? That was so good, so good. So then we have to talk about the TBR, because the whole thing about so one of the reasons I wanted to read every day at lunch was to make sure I was reading Japanese every day. I'd gotten kind of, I wasn't reading any novels, and I wasn't reading enough Japanese in my daily life, and I needed more variety. So I was like, all right, I need to make an effort. So I need to read Japanese every day. So manga is a good, sort of like a really easy way to do that. And then it kind of becomes your gateway drug to wanting to read more things, which is why I ended up reading more novels towards the end of the 2024. But then the other goal was also just to kill my TBR. There was a moment I just kept buying manga, and because it's so inexpensive, if you buy those sets used and you buy them on sale, like no reason to buy them full price, just always buy them on sale. Like, it just became so easy to buy. So you'd buy like a 20 book set here, a 30 book set here, a 40 book set here. It adds up very quickly. So there was definitely an idea that I needed to tackle this TBR. So I started the year off in 2024 with 615 volumes of unread manga. So that's a lot, 615 volumes of unread manga, especially considering how in 2023 I only read 21 volumes. So you can see that if I was only reading at a pace of 21 volumes a year, it's going to take me a while to get through 615 volumes. So I needed to pick up the pace. So by reading 133 volumes, I brought my total manga TBR to 489. So that's a lot better. I feel a lot better about that. Like, we're still close to 500, but we still need to bring it down. But like, just that 133 volume drop, significant, absolutely huge. So we're happy with that. And then out of the 489 manga on my physical TBR, so whenever I say TBR, I always mean my physical TBR. These are the books that I physically own. A wish list is just a wish list. It's just like this imaginary, like, digitalized, just thought of what I want to read someday. So my TBR is what I physically own. So it's down to 489. And then I do have 3 series that I never got to finish that I own in the US. That's still back in my family home in the US. So in terms of like the manga that I have on my TBR pile in Japan, I have 414 volumes left in Japan on these shelves. Well, on the shelves, over the shelves, next to the shelves, that's a different story. But basically, in my apartment in Japan, I have 414 volumes left. So I'm feeling really, really good. That's close to 400. That means it won't take very much for me to get it under 400, and now we're getting back into serious business. So super excited. Now, a good thing is also that not only did I reduce my TBR pile by 133 volumes, but I also managed to really limit my acquisitions. So this year, the only acquisitions, or 2024, the only acquisitions that I was allowed to do, not necessarily, like, I'm not super like ban myself from book buying, you know, for all these like forced emotions, you know, no. But I am a reasonable person. I am able to control myself. So I knew that there was no reason for me to buy manga when I had so much, especially manga that I want to read. I had Dragon Ball, I had Captain Tsubasa, I had Parasyte. Like, there's no reason for me to buy more because there's always already really good stuff here. So the only manga that I acquired in 2024 were the continuation of series that I already owned, basically. So I bought volume 14 of Gokushu Furo, The Way of the Household, and then I read that immediately. I bought the final volume of Kujima Utae ba Ye Hororo, and I read it. I bought the volumes 102 and 103 of Detective Conan, and I read them. So basically, in the year of 2024, I acquired 8 volumes of manga, and I read 4 of those immediately. And then one of them I bought just because I actually had to buy it. I was lending my Sailor Moon series out to my colleagues. I had 3 colleagues read them. And along with the Sailor Moon volumes, I wanted to give them a duology of the Sailor V manga, but I didn't own the second volume of that 2-volume set because it's actually really hard to find. So I ended up, and I always had the idea that I was just going to casually find it in Book Off and used bookstores, but impossible to find. So I ended up just buying it on the internet. So that was sort of a necessary acquisition. And then I also bought a 2-volume prequel to a soccer manga that I already have. So 2 manga prequel to a manga series I already have. I felt pretty good about that. So yeah, 8 volumes of manga acquired, and I read 4 out of those. So I feel really good about that. So in terms of trends, I basically stayed in my comfort zone, which is late 80s, early 90s. Those are the series I grew up with. So for me, it makes sense that I want to catch up on my childhood. And then after that, I can go into the newer stuff. So the only new stuff that I read was the newest volumes of Detective Conan, I have to read this every time, the Kujima series, and then the Gokushu Fudo. So those are the only like current day series that I read this year. But yeah, but like I said, like just the clear out is just, oh, it's so good. It feels so good. So in terms of favorites, I'm gonna have to say the obvious is gonna be Dragon Ball. It's just, I mean, it's a favorite of everybody for a reason. It's classic, the art is fantastic, the plot progression is fantastic. I do agree that the manga could have comfortably ended after the Freezer cycle, but I'm happy it continued. It gets silly. You realize how much Goku is pretty much kind of almost non-existent in the series because he's always like away until like the very last moment. So it's actually kind of funny. It's like seeing all these like little patterns that seem contradictory to the idea of being the protagonist of a major series, but that's just what adds to the humor of it. It's funny. I loved the beginning of Dragon Ball, like the original like Dragon Ball where it's Goku when he's young and Burma when he's young and when they first meet the Master Roshi and all that. Like that was just really good fun, and the art is so detailed in that time period. It's absolutely fantastic. Like, yeah, seeing the progression of art has been really good. Like it was fun the entire time, but the detail at the very beginning is just top notch, and the humor was funny, and I just loved everything about it. So Dragon Ball, definitely easy favorite. Captain Tsubasa surprised me with how, which is weird because I've watched the anime, but you know, when you watch the anime, you're pretty much just watching like 30 episodes to play one game. You know, you're like, they're just playing soccer the entire time. So reading the actual series really surprised me how like simple Tsubasa is. Like he's very like just super positive, good going, has no flaws, doesn't get angry. Everything is about loving soccer. And it was just really nice because it's true that like in all the other manga series I read, like someone dies, or the main character goes through like sort of a bad boy phase, or he gets angry at a certain point, or he has to find himself again. And so how positive Captain Tsubasa was really surprising to me. Also just like it's silly. It's like not at all realistic at all, which that's not always what you're looking for a soccer manga, but it's crazy how non-realistic it is. It's pretty funny. Like some of the like the one game where like there's like 3 of them standing on top of the goalposts, like on the actual net, to defend those the super soccer trick by the 2 twins is just hilarious. It's just so funny. But that's what makes it charming. So Captain Tsubasa was really surprising in how charming it was and how funny it was, and just how positive, and just, you know, let's play soccer because it's fun and we love it. Like how much of that was just, yeah, it was just a delight, a real delight. Kiseiju is the series I'd say is the only series that really had any depth, any like adult themes out of everything I read, and that was really fun to read. It reminded me that I really enjoyed seinen books. I really enjoy manga that is marketed to more adults versus maybe like young teenagers, young school age children. And so I definitely want to read more books that are darker like this, that explore themes that you can't explore in like a standard like soccer manga or like a fighting manga or things like that. So something that doesn't like just depend on humor basically. So this makes me want to explore more under these themes. I was really happy to read this. In terms of disappointment, I have to say there was only one series that kind of disappointed me, and that was Black Cat. That was the final series. And my friend and I discussed this quite a bit. It was just like, I can't say it's cliched shonen because it came out 2004. So that's like the peak of like that genre. So it's still at the time, it's still within the time period that's creating all the cliches, that's creating all the tropes. But it just emotionally just didn't go anywhere. Like it's very well drawn, it's very well plotted, it has an excellent pace. The characters are fantastic, they're funny, they have good relationships with each other, they're interesting, but there was missing a little bit of emotional connection to the series that kind of makes it quite forgettable for me. This is a series I kind of feel like I won't remember that I've read it eventually far in the future. So I don't know, that was not really the best way to end my year, but I am glad that I was at least able to read one of my friend's favorites. And even he says he doesn't really remember why it was his favorite. I think it's one of those things like you read something when you're young and you fall in love with it, and then you just kind of like, you're attached to that feeling more so than you're attached to the actual like plot and whatnot. But he does obviously love the characters because they're great characters. So yeah, I think that's it. Again, wonderful year of reading. So I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different series, which is always funny when you put it like that. Like that feels like I'm telling you I read 10 books last year, which for some people that's a lot, and for some it's not. But for me, it just kind of feels like, oh, only 10 series. But like I read some really long series. I mean, Captain Tsubasa's 37 volumes. Dragonball's 42 volumes, and then reading Black Cat was 20 volumes. By the way, I am going to sell this. This is a series. This and this I'm selling because I need to make space on my shelves. And this one I don't feel like I need to keep it because I didn't have the emotional connection. And this one was really super cute, but I'm just never going to reread it. It's so simple. Like it's lovely when you read it, but I just don't feel like I need to keep it. So I'm definitely unhauling these and selling them to the bookstore to make room for new manga eventually, hopefully soccer manga. I have my eye on a certain series. Yeah, just make room and just like allow myself to, you know, move things around and be inspired by what I own and by what's on my shelves. So there you go. All the manga that I read in 2024. So far, I have not started reading any manga in 2025. Right now, I'm still focusing on novel, so we'll see when the whole manga thing starts to pick up. But most likely I'll start reading a soccer manga. Like, that's how I start every year. It's just the best way to just start the year and have fun and enjoy and relax and just like not take things seriously and to explore a sport that I absolutely adore. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!